the way of stepping back and letting him lead the way is new to you. The way of saying these little goals are senseless and you need to train your mind because that's where the answer lies is new to you. And it says you may step off the path from time to time. None of that really matters. Just choose again, again, and again, and again. You know, there's no limit on the number of tries. It's not like the genie in Aladdin, you get 3 wishes. You get infinite amounts of time to choose again. And that's what it's saying. It says his memory. So this is why we need to remember, because his memory is hidden in our minds. It's there within our minds. And it's not hidden because he's hidden it. It's hidden because we obscured by our pointless little goals, which offer nothing and simply do not exist. Just like the tentacles in the War of the Worlds. I mean, once they were, the lifeblood was withdrawn from it, they dissipated. They just fell apart. And so do our judgments and the problems of the world when we turn to him. I think about, just in this standpoint, Jeffrey is taking aviation in high school. And it's the first high school that offers aviation. And it was in the register about his high school. And they've kind of, and he's got this guy who decided to write a grant to get the funding for flight simulators and everything else. He just thought it would be fun. He went to the school and asked him. They said, yeah, you can write the grant for it. And he had somebody help him kind of write it. He got all this money for an aviation class. They've got 6 simulators in there. By the end of 2 years, if he decides to take it for 2 years, he could get his pilot's license.
Well, without flying ever.
Because they're doing simulators. Now you get your pilot, then you get the pilot's license is not the flying license yet. You get that one, and then you still have to do the hours. But he says, if anybody really wants to do it, he says, the teacher's saying, I'll take you out. He says, because I can do that for you, and we can start doing some of that. But he says, the point of it is they have those simulators there. They have 6 of them. Wow. So to me, it's like somebody who says, we're going to do this, and we're not going to be limited. I'm going to give it a shot. What's the worst? It doesn't happen.
Can we go back?
I go back to school. This is amazing. This is the only school, the only high school in this area that offers that at this point in time. And, but the point is that we don't have to be limited by our thinking, and here it is. He's got this aviation class. And so look, actually, this is the point of my story. I kind of got distracted there, but he has to do a PowerPoint right now on the history of aviation. And so he was telling me that. I was kind of Googling. That was kind of interesting. Well, what is the history? I know the Wright brothers, right? And then you go and you start looking at this and you realize that the first flight was the kite in 400 BC with the Chinese, And because of the kite and the aerodynamic understanding that brought, then came the balloon, the hot air balloon and the glider. All of this came from the kite. And then we have, Da Vinci and his drawings of a helicopter, that little kind of orthometer or whatever they call it. And then it kind of went through man with these gliders with a person in them and, all of this idea. But it was, of course, the Wright brothers who were able to firmly establish a man-powered plane that, as I've said before many times, made a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift in our minds where we are no longer limited by the idea that the ground. We're not limited to the ground anymore. It really was that moment. No one would now think, oh, man can't fly. That would just be some silliness. 1903, that happened. And from there on out, we've just been going up, up, up. I was even looking, and NASA has some new designs for these airplanes. It's just amazing. They contracted Boeing and Lockheed and that other big one, something Grumman, something. Yeah, Martin. Yeah, and fascinating what they have on. They have one that looks like a flying saucer, but it's a powered plane, and they're talking about plane cars that where you can take off and land in your car. It's just, yeah, I know it. So, we're not limited at all because of that moment. The same thing is true in your mind.
Can you see millions of LA drivers up in the air?
Oh, well, let's not worry about millions of LA drivers up in the air right now. But my point in saying this is once we break those paradigms, then the ego really, in our own minds, the ego has no power. We need to think about that. Break one paradigm of this thinking, and the ego really has no power. Now, it tries to make it act like, oh, that's just happened once. You got that awareness. Oh, that was a lucky fluke. People will say, I was doing this workbook lesson and I really felt the peace of God within me now in relationship to this person or that experience or that situation. What lesson was that? I got to go back and do that lesson again. It had nothing to do with the lesson. It had to do finally with our willingness to overlook all senseless aims that keep the memory of God hidden in our minds. So if we have felt that, and I think everyone sitting in this room has probably felt that sense of oneness with someone or something or for no good reason at all, and if you have, or felt that connection or that miracle awareness in your mind, if you have, then the senseless, pointless goals of the ego really do not have power over you anymore. Now you need to know that and keep training your mind in that awareness.